So what makes the Mona Lisa so famous? I mean, there are so many incredible paintings throughout history. So why is this the most recognized painting in the world? Now, there are many people questioning why this painting is so popular. There are tons of articles calling it overrated. As I would even say that it's just a plain painting of an average-looking face. Well, you see, the Mona Lisa wasn't always so well known. It only became a household name after it was stolen over 100 years ago. So here's what happened. On the 21st of August 1911, an Italian handyman named Vincenzo Perugia, who once worked at the Louvre making protective cases for paintings, decided to steal the Mona Lisa. Now, at this time, this painting was respected in the art world, but it wasn't the Louvre's biggest attraction, and the security was nowhere near what it is today, so stealing it wasn't exactly mission impossible. Perugia put on a white smock, similar to the museum worker's uniform, and hid inside a closet in the Louvre overnight. Then, in the morning, he casually walked up to the painting, took it off the wall, slipped it under his coat, and headed for the exit. It didn't even raise any suspicion. When he got stuck at the locked door, a workman even helped him open it. Having no clue he was letting a thief walk out with a masterpiece. But why did Perugia choose to steal the Mona Lisa? Well, there are different theories. Perugia himself would later claim that he wanted to return the Mona Lisa to Italy, believing that it was wrongfully taken to France. But another simple explanation was that it was chosen at random, and that Perugia had picked the painting just because it was a smaller piece and much easier to carry. In fact, the painting was so small that no one even noticed it was missing for the entire day. And when they finally did, they didn't even panic. Because paintings were often moved around for cleaning or having their photo taken. So it took a while before anyone realized it had actually been stolen. And when the news finally broke, the French press went wild with the story. But not really because of the painting's value. Oh no, at this point in time, the public barely knew about the painting. They're just using the whole thing as an excuse to roast the government for how badly the Louvre was run. This was also a time when newspapers were exploding in popularity, so soon after, the heist and the image of Mona Lisa was everywhere. The scandal wasn't just about a missing painting, it was about national embarrassment. The French authorities threw everything they had at the case, with 60 detectives trying to track down the stolen artwork. And naturally, all this attention got people asking questions. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, what's so special about this painting? And ironically, what made the case even more intriguing was that the woman's identity in the painting was already a mystery to begin with. So, we know that Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa sometime between 1503 and 1519, while he was living in Florence, Italy. However, Da Vinci never reveals the lady's identity, and no one can actually prove who the Mona Lisa is supposed to be. Now, the most widely accepted theory was that she is Lisa del Giocondo, the wife of the Florentine merchant Francesco del Giocondo. This is why the painting is called the Mona Lisa, or La Gioconda. However, this idea only first came around during the 1550s, when Italian artist biographer Giorgio Vasari first made the claim. And not everyone agrees. If the painting was a commissioned portrait of Lisa del Giocondo, why didn't her family ever receive it? Instead, Da Vinci took it with him when he left Italy to work for King Francis in France. So, some people had came up with a different theory, saying that the lady in the painting could be Da Vinci's own mother, Caterina, and that the painting's mysterious smile was inspired by Da Vinci's childhood memories of her. But then there's an even crazier theory, saying that the Mona Lisa isn't actually a woman at all, Some scholars argue that this is Da Vinci's self-portrait in disguise, pointing out the similarities in their facial features, and that perhaps Da Vinci was playing a very clever artistic riddle. Now, many people had tried to prove the painting's identity once and for all, even wanting to dig up Lisa's remains to compare her reconstructed face. But every attempt never gives any clear answers, so to this day, no one really knows who the woman in the painting actually is. Okay, now let's get back to our story about the missing painting. So, as the investigation dragged on, the story of the Mona Lisa kept growing. Now, it had gotten so big that for the first time ever, people were lining up in the Louvre just to see the empty space where the painting used to be. Meanwhile, the police were desperate for answers. Because of the massive publicity, they were under a lot of pressure to solve the case. At first, they did suspect the thief to be Vincenzo Perugia, but unfortunately, when they searched Perugia's apartment in the same year, they didn't find anything. This is because Perugia had carefully hidden the painting in a false-bottom trunk, in a spot they never even noticed. Then, with no release, the police started questioning other suspects. On the 7th of September 1911, the poet Guillaume Apollinaire was arrested and wrongfully thrown into jail. But there was no evidence linking him to the missing painting, so he was released 5 days later. But then things took another unexpected turn. The famous painter Pablo Picasso was also brought in to be questioned by the police. As it turns out, years ago, Picasso had bought 2 small Iberian sculptures, not knowing that they were also stolen from the Louvre. But when the real thief who sold it to him confessed about the crime, Picasso panicked and quickly returned them. But because of this connection, he got tangled up in the Mona Lisa investigation until he was finally cleared. However, all of this just made the media frenzy even bigger. People couldn't believe how often someone could steal from the Louvre. The whole thing was an embarrassment. It became a symbol of incompetence and a joke at the expense of the French government. But then something even bigger happened. On the 14th of April 1912, the Titanic sank. And just like that, the Mona Lisa heist was completely overshadowed. The world's attention shifted to the massive tragedy. And the case of the missing painting slowly faded from the international headlines. The thrill had gone cold. Rumors spread that the painting had disappeared out of the country and most likely would be lost forever. For a while, people had simply forgotten about the Mona Lisa. But in 1913, when the heist was no longer in the news, Perugia had decided that it's finally time for him to sell the stolen painting. So he reached out to an art dealer named Alfredo Geri, claiming that he wanted to return the Mona Lisa back to Italy for a price. Geri was suspicious, so he contacted Giovanni Poggi, the director of the famous Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy. Together, they set up a meeting with Perugia at the Hotel Tripoli, Italia. Then, on the 10th of December 1913, when Perugia showed the Mona Lisa to the group, Poggi immediately knew that it was the real painting. But instead of freaking out, he stayed calm and told Perugia they needed more time to inspect the artwork. But secretly, he was really trying to alert the police. And just like that, Perugia was arrested on the next day. Soon after, news of the painting recovery exploded worldwide. To celebrate, Italy took the Mona Lisa on a victory tour across the country, stopping in Florence, Milan, and Rome. Everywhere it went, huge crowds gathered just to see it. Then, in January 1914, the Mona Lisa was placed on a train back to France. When it arrived in Paris, a massive crowd was already waiting. And when the painting was finally returned to the Louvre, more than 100,000 people flooded the gallery in just the first 2 days. At this point, the artwork was more than just a painting. It was treated like a real celebrity, and ever since, the Mona Lisa has become a pop culture icon. Even though we're still not sure who she really is.